It is unacceptable for a pediatrician to make less than $350,000 a year if they're working full time. That is what the average U.S. physician makes. Now, you can say physicians shouldn't make that much money, and I'll say Taylor Swift shouldn't make $1 billion a year selling records, but she does. And if you want to attract the top, most talented people to take care of the most important asset that a society has in every community, whatever color of their skin there is, whatever the income is, it is our children. And we need to pay them so that we attract them and keep them on the workforce. It is not acceptable to pay them less than a police officer or a fireman, firefighter, or firewoman, and then forget about our children. This is not acceptable.
There is a shortage of pediatricians already. I have medical students, and I have never met one that said, "Hey, I want to be like you, doc." And the school is discouraging them from going into pediatrics. They're literally telling them, "Don't go because you'll make no money."
This become the field for nurse practitioners or PAs these days.
They don't want to. They don't want to.
They don't want to.
That's an
Nurse practitioners want to work with the doctor and give Botox.
Less than a third of nurse practitioners want to go into primary care because they can go work in a dermatology office and make $150,000 a year, or they can go work in the pediatric office and make $90,000 a year and hustle. And they're like, why? Why would I give up $70,000 in income and have to carry a pager on the weekends? No.
And not only that, though, the whole issue is even that the whole aspect of, I would call them paraprofessionals, has overrun medicine to an extent that is totally unacceptable. And until you end up with more cases where there are disasters hitting the media, no one is going to give a damn.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just going to say years ago, if you remember this design case, Mount Sinai, which had to do with overworked residents, it was only because the child that was involved was the daughter of a very prominent person in the city of New York that anything changed.
Or the Bell Commission.
Yeah. Yes.
Bell Commission.
And then the same thing happened, I think, at Hopkins. There was some disaster.
Yeah.
And the family had a lot of money and they forced change. But I have a very simple proposal. I think it's very fair. Anytime that a nurse practitioner or a PA presents themselves to a patient, they need to explain that they are a nurse practitioner and that their training involved 18 months of a master's program. Because what they have been playing on is confusing the consumer that because they wear a white coat, that they have the same training as a resident trained physician, and they don't.
Well, that's because of what they done with the media.
Now, you can choose to take care from a nurse practitioner. If I have a sore throat and I need a strep test and I don't want to drive all the way to the office and swab myself, the nurse practitioner in the Minute Clinic will do the job for $50. What do I care? Sure. So there is a role for them, and some of them are very talented and very smart. And when they work in a team, they're incredibly helpful. But let's be honest to the consumer what you're getting. Because you're paying the same for that nurse practitioner's time as you are for a board certified pediatrician.
Correct.
Yes, it's the same thing if you go to, and you mentioned about lawyers. If you go to a big law firm, after your initial consult with them, most of the time they will tell you, I'm going to have a paralegal help you and take care of this matter. It's only a couple $100 an hour as opposed to my fee. But even at that, you're talking about 10 times what we are seeing in revenue and medicine.
Yeah, and a paralegal will never be allowed to argue a case in the court.
They'll tell you right up front that I'm a paralegal and that I am working under So, and then everything we do will get reviewed by your attorney.
But you cannot be a paralegal and walk into a courthouse in the US and represent a client. No, it is not allowed because the lawyers are not stupid. They're not going to let somebody eat their lunch.